And we will continue. We will continue with the capacity building now. We have the next presenter, straight from Brussels, again, EACEA. And we should have the presentation of Alba Prieto Gonzalez. And hopefully she's online. We have the presentation.
Yes, I'm online.
Wonderful. So, Alba, good morning. It's a little bit earlier for you. For us, it's a little bit later already. We have almost up to 100 participants from Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. The floor is yours. We are very curious to know the novelties.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for, first of all, to the organizers for their patience, because, well, mainly Evelyn and Hando, they had to wait for my presentation until this morning. There's a reason for this, is because this is the first presentation we are giving from the agency on the new call of capacity building. So let's say that you have the breaking news. So you're the first public actually having a presentation on this from the agency. Throughout this year, we have been working a lot on defining the actual call for proposals that we are going to present. As you know, we have 1 year break from previous programs, so we are launching now a call for the first time in the new MFF, in the new multi-financial framework. And this new call, we have tried to align two things. We have tried to make something more ambitious than it was in the past, and at the same time more inclusive. So these are two words that are very important to retain. At the same time that we are giving a lot of more we are trying to have more impact in the partner countries. We are as well trying to include people with fewer opportunities in these countries. So basically, we will continue working on supporting the relevance, quality, modernization of higher education, but this time we have a stronger emphasis on socioeconomic recovery, on growth and prosperity in the partner countries. You will see, by the way, that there's a change in the type of terminology we are using. We're not anymore talking about partner countries. We are talking about third countries not associated to the program. To react to recent trends, we are also working very much on human development, and with, as I said before, a stronger focus on inclusion, accessibility, and equity. And we are, of course, aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN and the Paris Agreement. So the purpose of it's not changing my clicker. Can you please change the slide? And okay, sorry. So the purpose of these projects, and this is very, very important to retain, is that we need to benefit the developing countries, and we need to focus on their needs. And of course, we need to match these needs with the EU priorities. The objectives of this new capacity building, well, we are still working on modernization of higher education institutions, but also trying to have a bigger impact on the higher education systems. We are working on cooperation, we are working on regional integration, we are working on governance. We intend to have a societal impact, mainly in terms of employability. We are trying to provide more accessibility to people with fewer opportunities, and we are still, of course, working very much on innovation. Which are the new features? I guess you already have some information on this, but we used to have just two types of projects, the joint projects and the structural projects. Now we are adding another type of projects, which are small-scale projects to start internationalization. I will go into details afterwards on that. We will be using a new budget system, which is new to the action, but which has been used very much in, for example, Horizon Europe, in other programs of the European Commission. And also we are now working in FTOP, which is a novelty for Erasmus+. Only some calls have been published in the past in in the funding and tender portals. And now all the costs of the agency will go into this new system for us, of course. Okay, so the three strands. So the first strand is the small scale projects we were talking about. What do we try to get from here? What we want is to facilitate the access to newcomers, to institutions that have never participated in capacity building. And this project should be a start of internationalization for the institutions participating in it. What we would like to is to reduce the gap of internalization into the same region or into the same country from different higher education institutions. Again, with an eye on fostering social inclusion. So, which are the target groups of these projects? Well, we are trying to reach the higher education institutions from the least developed countries, and also those that are in remote areas, regions, into these countries. We are trying to have the newcomers or less experienced institutions in capacity building, and they should try to engage the individuals with fewer opportunities as well. Some examples on activities that we may be funding is, for example, the enhancement of management administrative capacity of the higher education institutions, the curriculum modernization, training of individuals, the introduction of new teaching and learning methods, and always having in view to increase the accessibility of students and staff with fewer opportunities. These projects will get less funding because they are less ambitious, let's say. They are like a first step for these institutions. So the funding will be reduced compared to what you used to have in the previous program. So we will be giving between 200,000 and 400,000 euros for these types of projects. But I would retain on this strand, if you intend to apply for one of these type of projects, it's start small, don't do big consortia in this case. And in the application, keep it simple. It shouldn't be complicated, and it should be something that it's very easy to follow for your partners in the partner countries. So strand 2. Again, voilà. Okay. So the strand 2 is something you may be more familiar with because it's somehow the successor of what we used to call the joint programs. What's the main difference this time? We are trying to have more societal impact. So, of course, you may have curriculum development still, but it has to be very much linked with industry, with business needs in the country. It needs to have an impact not only at the level of curriculum development for one master, for one BA. No, it needs to promote reform into the institution. And again, the link to business, the link to employability needs to be stronger than it was in the past. So who are we trying to reach with this strand? We are trying to reach higher education institutions, of course, also the local actors with link to industry, to business, again, individuals, and the bodies responsible for higher education at local and national level. Type of activities in implementation of new learning methods, for example, something that was presented already by Inga on what they are doing in her project Modest, introducing practical learning schemes, innovative curricula, and reform governance and management at the institutional level, mainly. So in this case, the funding will be between 400,000 and 800,000, and it will be projects between 2 and 3 years. And then we will have the third strand, which is structural reform projects, which used to be already in the previous program. Here we are trying to push a little bit more the structural reforms. We think that several regions are ready to work more on this area than maybe in the other types of projects. What we are trying to do here, it's a mutual learning between the public authorities of what we used to call the partner countries, and the countries, the program countries, so the EU countries and associated countries to the program. Again, the idea is to promote around the globe inclusive higher education systems, increase the capacities of the bodies in the different regions, in the different countries in charge of higher education, and also identify synergies between other ongoing EU initiatives. Who are the target groups for this type of projects? And again, having a problem with the clicker. Well, okay, thank you. So the target groups are the national competence authorities in third countries. What we're trying to do here, it's a peer learning between, for example, the competent bodies in Europe in terms of higher education, and the competent bodies in the countries, in the target countries in charge of higher education. There's an important difference here regarding the previous programs, where we were trying to reach in capacity building in the past only ministries. Now we will be talking about national competent authorities. It doesn't have to be the ministries, because in some countries, in some regions, they don't even have a Ministry of Education. They may have a Secretary of State or other types of bodies. Well, this strand is very much about fostering national ownership, about promoting efficient and effective policy making. It's also a very ambitious activity that may be funded through this, is foster common regional strategies in higher education. Like, for example, creating an area of higher education in a region. And also, for example, activities regarding the introduction of funding mechanisms that can be experienced to what we do in Europe, for example. Given the higher scope of this strand, we would like to receive projects that would last more, like 3 years or 4 years. And of course, the funding is more important. So it will be funding between 800,000 and 1 million euros. Okay, so in terms of how to do a consortium, I would suggest that you check actually the program guide for more information. But basically, it's in terms of consortia, we are keeping more or less what we was in the past. So, for example, we will be funding national projects, just working in one country. We will work with multi-country regional projects, introducing several countries into the partnership, which are in the same region. For example, Inga's project is a good example of that. And then we will also still be funding cross-regional projects, so more than one region, involving at least one country from each eligible region. In terms of Europe, we need at least 2 institutions from 2 different countries, from the program countries, from the countries associated to the Erasmus Plus program. Okay, so new regional priorities. Well, regional priorities will be published with the call. It's a very complicated exercise that we are still not ready to publish the final priorities for each region, but actually these will be embedded into the overarching priorities of the Commission. Okay, so for example, the digital technology in the poorest countries, this is what we are trying to have as a priority. Green Deal, inclusion and diversity, values, growth and jobs. And then from these overarching priorities, we will define which are the priorities for the different regions. We won't have this time national priorities, okay? The regions we will be working with, I think some hints have already been given which regions now have more funding than others. This is still not final. The presenter, I don't know your name, but you already gave the idea that we are going to work a lot with Africa this time, but it doesn't mean that we are not working with other regions, of course. You will see what's the difference between the region in the previous program and this one. Well, first of all, we have the Caribbean as a separate region. You see region 11 there. So it's a little bit small, I'm really sorry. Then there's a difference in numbering, which is important also when you try to fill in your application for example, Asia used to be region 6, now it will be region 5. So please check very well the program guide for these details. And then another big difference is the new budget type that we will be using this time. It's a budget type that we think simplifies our lives and your lives mainly during the implementation. But it's a system, maybe some of you have already worked on it in Horizon Europe. It's a system that entails a lot of preparation at the application stage. Basically, what we are trying to match here is the work packages with the budget. This is the idea of the lump sum 2 approach. So what you will need to do in the application is to provide a detailed estimation of cost and split this cost per work package and per beneficiary, okay? We will, with our external experts, we assess the cost details during the evaluation, and we will make recommendations if needed. And then the definite lump sum will be fixed during grant preparation. So let's say that there will be a negotiation at that moment that will fix a budget for the implementation of the project. With this, we are trying to avoid, for example, a amendment on budget and a lot of administrative work that it's very cumbersome for you and also very cumbersome for us. So you will have to define work packages. You will have to define what you're going to do and exactly how much is going to cost, how much is going to estimate the cost for these work packages. It's important to think in terms of work packages. There's a guidance here. For example, a single activity is not a work package. A single task is not a work package. An estimate of the progress of work is not a work package. A lapse of time is not a work package. How we will be paying you throughout the project is by finalizing deliverables, which means that you will divide the project in work packages and reflect this division in the budget. And then in this work package, you will need to define the activities, the outputs, the milestones, and the deliverables. And we will do in the monitoring that way in the future. Okay, I don't have much time left, so I'm going to go to the application and evaluation procedure. So as I said, big novelty, we will be publishing in the funding and tenders portal. The regional priorities will be put there, but the very important document for you to check the eligibility and award criteria is the Erasmus program guide, Erasmus Plus program guide, whose publication is foreseen as of mid-November this year, so in more or less 1 month. The award criteria, it's the relevance of the project, the quality of the project design and implementation, the quality of the partnership and the cooperation agreements, and the sustainability impact and dissemination of the expected results. As it was the case in the past, after the external experts evaluate the award criteria, how much you fulfill these award criteria, we will have also a consultation with the EU delegations in the target countries. Why do we do this? Because it's a second, it's the last check on how much you are targeting the needs of the third countries. And as you know, well, the EU delegations, they have a real, they are in the countries and they actually work very much with the authorities there. So they have a unique view on this. So again, we will continue working this way with them in the future program. And last, and on time, it's to have a timeline. So as I said, publication would be in the second half of November. The deadline between mid-February, March 2022 doesn't make a big difference. It will be 2 weeks more, 2 weeks less. The evaluation process is supposed to go between March and July. The information to applicants will be over the summer 2022. And the start of the project will be end of 2022. So everything I can say now is that I'm happy to listen to your questions. And if you're going to apply, I wish you a lot of luck with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I don't see you.
We have one question coming up. Just a second.
Oh, good. Good.
Yes, hello. Thank you for your presentation. I'm Antra Mendele from National Agency of Latvia, from International Contact Point. And I have 2 small questions. I think for the first, I already know the answer. In respect of eligible non-associated countries, this new term for partner countries, yesterday we saw the map when kind of all the rest of the world, apart from program countries, is colored in a color like non-associated countries. But did I get it right that also for capacity building projects, we will continue to stick to the concrete eligible regions for both national projects and regional projects? It wouldn't be so that the whole world is open for the projects. And
No,
the next small question, so I will give the microphone back to our moderator. And the next question, yesterday also in Bruno's presentation, and we know this novelty about those national focal contact points all over the world, in addition to national Erasmus Plus offices in partner countries, which are just in neighboring countries and very helpful for preparation of these particular type of projects. Will it be so that we will be able also to contact those national focal contact points in the rest of the world, in addition to national Erasmus Plus offices, if we will have questions for particular partner countries? Thank you.
Well, to reply to your first question, I included a slide exactly where you see the countries we are working with and the regions we are working with. Of course, when we talk about other countries not associated to the program, we are, for example, not including the states in this project because we are mainly working with developing projects, with developing countries. So, but as you have seen, I have listed all the countries. It's a very small in terms of funds, maybe to see it in the public, but you will have this type of details in the presentation. Regarding the national focal points, as you know, this is still being put in place. I think it's a great idea because, as you know, the NEOs existed for some regions, and some other regions, they only had the delegations as a contact point. So now we are putting a new, let's say, support for the capacity building projects. Exactly what they are going to need is still being defined. It would be very much into training, as far as I know, and they will also be able to help. They will do a work on helping applicants and also promoting the program in the different countries. Yeah.
Thank you, Alba. I will. I have here one question in the which is written down, and I will read it to you. Okay. It's a longer question, but it's a little bit the same direction that Antra from Latvia was asking. So the question is, and it's how are the EU policy priorities set if they don't actually reflect the need of all member states? For instance, there is no need in the Baltic countries for Sub-Sahara Africa, which has tremendous increase of funds in 2022. For the Baltic countries, it would be more, it would be better to increase the Eastern Partnership support. Anyway, the background of the question is that when we think about mobility, then regarding Eastern Europe and regarding the student or staff journey, or anyway the traveling, in that sense, the Eastern Europe and especially Baltic countries' competence is not, especially when it comes to socio-economic growth. We have always historically supported, for example, the Eastern Partnership countries and, for example, Georgia, for example, Moldova, Ukraine, Caucasus countries. So why, anyway, the question is a long question, but what is your opinion on that?
Well, the priorities decided in the Commission is larger than me. I mean, it's not something I do. There are probably valid reasons to give more importance now to Africa than to maybe the other regions. It doesn't mean that we are not working anymore with the other regions. There's still the budget is going to be important for the different regions we are working with. So, of course, I mean, I understand. I have been working on this for a long time, and here we always need to meet the needs of all the member states, all the program countries, and also do a representation of Europe that it's relevant for the third countries. What can I say? Of course, I understand that for you, the Eastern Partnership is maybe something that you have closer to you, that you know better, and that you have an expertise that maybe other regions in Europe don't have for that. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you why it's Africa. It's this focus in Africa now. It's a decision that we need to follow. But I mean, don't discourage yourself. The budget for Eastern Partnership is going to be still important, and I hope we will have you still on board to continue working with these countries.
Thank you very much, Alba. In that sense, we know that you cannot sign the European Commission contracts like today now in 1 hour and change anything. But in that sense, just to let you know the real physical situation that when it comes to, for example, international projects, Baltic countries have very few representation in Sub-Saharan Africa, especially consular services, embassies, and we understand that maybe for France or Belgium or Spain or Portugal, there is a long historical connection with Sub-Saharan Africa, but our historical connection is to another region in the world which also needs help exactly as much as Africa. So this is the background of the question. We discussed it a little bit yesterday too.
Yeah, of course.
But thank you so much for elaborating, and thank you very much. As you got to know, we were the first ones. To receive this presentation. And Dina, you have something important to say right now. There is one more question, the last question, Alba, for you, and this is very concrete. Lump sum approach, does it mean that implementing the project, we will have to deliver intellectual output and we will get the fixed sum and there will be no need to submit administrative financial documents like timesheets, invoices, etc.? Does it mean that?
That's over, yeah. So the idea of the lump sums too is more into performance than into administration. That's the idea. It doesn't mean that we don't have any control at all of the costs, but we are going for we are trying to go more towards let's say more an operational monitoring that we're going to do from Brussels than to a financial monitoring, because we know that it was quite cumbersome for projects. On the lump sums too, you have a lot of information on the funding and tender portals. There are a lot of information. I saw, for example, at the beginning of this month, they have published a study they did on how lump sums 2 has been implemented in several pilot calls in Horizon Europe. Maybe it's interesting for you to read on how it works and also which are the, let's say, the advantages and the disadvantages of this system. I think it needs to be very well planned at the application level. I mean, again, as I said, then during the evaluation, we will give you recommendations, and during the preparation of the contract, we will be able to, let's say, negotiate. So moving money from one heading from one work package to another, and fixing there the budget. But again, you have a lot of information on the funding and tender portals, and I invite you to check this information because it's quite interesting.
Thank you, Alba. Let's do one more applause. And greetings to Brussels.
Yeah, I'm very sorry that I'm not there, actually. I hope at some point we will be able to meet people in person again and be able to promote.
You can drop us an email and the dates when you can be here, either in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. So next week, maybe your email is coming, and then we will do the plans. Okay?
Yeah, because I think there's an important part on also discussing informally about your opinions on this, on how you're going to approach. I think this is a very important feedback that we get, and that it's very different to do it in this way online from Brussels, from home, than to do it when being there with you.
But still, thank you very much, and have a nice day, and see you hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.